So October 30th, Halloween Eve, October 30th, 1938. Who remembers it? No, that's just kidding. But anyways, I'm not going to do that. Some of the producers at the Columbia Broadcast System, that's CBS, folks, CBS, thought it might be funny to play a little bit of a Halloween prank on their listeners, okay? So they had the famous Orson Welles with two E's and his Mercury Theater group go ahead and take over the airways. Now, I specifically did say listeners because we're still like 10 years out from TVs really being a thing. So this is the pre-screen age, and everyone would huddle around these little sound box machines. They were called radios, and people would listen to things on the radio. And Orson Welles and his theater group, they come onto the air, and they start reading a script where they're playing these parts as journalists and reporters who are covering this unfolding story of aliens invading the earth. Supposedly they had touched down in Grover's Mill, New Jersey, and they were headed for New York City to wreak havoc. Now, the script of the whole thing was based on H.G. Wells with one E, his famous novel that was first published in 1898, The War of the Worlds, where an enemy of another world invades our world to destroy all of life as we know it. Two worlds locked in a battle, and only one can make it out alive. Now, these voice actors were so deceptive and convincing in the parts that they were playing, no one was able to actually see what was unfolding before them, and so towns and cities were thrust into hysteria because they thought that what they were hearing was actually happening. They thought it was true, that an enemy was in the process of taking over the world and that their lives were now in danger because of it. Now, it was particularly bad in Grover's Mill, right? The place where it said that it was happening in that moment, to the point where the people of this little town started to arm themselves. And they began shooting at the local water tower, thinking that that was the spacecraft that the aliens had landed in. It was getting out of control. People were flooding the streets of New York City. And of course, none of it was true. And you say, the simple-minded. How could they not have known? But I think it's interesting because the response of these people who were hearing that the world in which they were inhabiting, the world in which they were existing, the world in which they were trying to survive in was being invaded by an enemy. And so their first response was to act. They wanted to first try and see if this clear and present danger was actually there. So they were all running out of their house, and they were looking up into the sky, and they were going into the streets, and they were asking each other. They were trying to defend their lives. They were trying to fight for their loved ones. Or they were trying to get as far away from this unseen enemy as possible. What if I told you, and I'm not trying to incite fear or hysteria, but I'm also not lying either, that our worlds, your little world, my little world, are being invaded every single day. A powerful and unseen enemy is being sent into our life specifically for the purpose of destroying it. And he does so by filling your minds, my minds, our minds with thoughts. He does so by filling our hearts, our emotions, our desires. From his little broadcast booth with all of these lies, all of these deceptions to get you to care about things that don't actually matter, or to get you to care about things in the wrong way, or to see things that aren't actually there, just to stir you up into this fear, into this hysteria, into this doubt, to cause you to be confused and disoriented, to distract you, and ultimately to control you. He wants to kind of separate you from all of people. He wants to isolate you and get you to think that, no, you can actually control your life, but really he is the one who's controlling you, so that he can ultimately destroy you. And what's interesting is that we actually see this enemy at work in a major way in the passage that we read, as well as in the rest of this chapter in John 13. In fact, the only time in the entire gospel, in the entire book of John, where this enemy is named is in this chapter. And so here we have Jesus and his disciples all reclining at this table, about to enjoy the Passover meal. So him and his 12 disciples, they're sitting there, they're reclining, they're talking, They haven't broken the bread yet. They haven't passed around the Holy Grail. Not really. That's a joke based on the show. Anyways, if you saw it, you get it. Now, it's just a cup with wine, right? They haven't done that yet. It's Jesus and it's his 12 disciples. And this is the last meal. His disciples wouldn't have known it yet, but this was his last meal before he would go on to willingly be killed for them the next day. But Jesus knew it. This wasn't a surprise to him. And Jesus is in control of the situation the entire time. It says it was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. And so what I want you to see right here, right away, is the fact that the author John is setting up this idea that there are two worlds at play here. Two worlds. There's a world here on this earth, and it's being ruled by the villain of our story. The villain in the story of all of God's creation. And then there's the world that this hero, Jesus, has come from heaven, down into this world in order to bring his world. Jesus is the one who has actually come down to invade. He's invading this kingdom, this dominion of darkness that the devil is presiding over in this world in order to bring his world, this world of light. And over the past 3 years, Jesus has been doing battle as he's carried out his ministry with his disciples to battle against the villain of this world. This is the real war of the worlds. And remember, this world, this dominion of darkness, this is under the rule of the enemy. Jesus came down to light it up in the night. But now Jesus, exactly according to his plan, is going to leave this world physically so that he can win ultimately. What do I mean by win ultimately? I mean that he is here to leave so that he can win those that he came to love and to save forever, happily ever after. To rescue the love interest that he came to save, to win you and I out of the enemy's world back into his, even though we do everything possible to push him away. We've denied him, we've disobeyed him, we've abandoned him, we've ignored him in our life, and yet that has not stopped him from coming after us, loving us, and doing what needed to be done to save us. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. So now, Jesus is going to start really executing this final leg of his and his Father's plan in order to bring about the redemption of creation. And to do so, they're actually going to employ, and I struggle to say this word, a bit of deception of their own. Now, it's not deception in like a lying or dishonest way. That's sin. God is incapable of doing sin. He's incapable of sinning. But what it is, it's kind of a bait that he's setting to then trap the enemy. Because what we're going to see is that in verse 2, the evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. And so, what does this mean? This means that because Jesus, the Son of God, has invaded the devil's territory and done what he's done up until this point in the story, the villain in our story knows that his time is short. That if he is going to have any ability to kind of disrupt this plan, he needs to act quickly. Just Jesus coming on the pages of history in the way he did kind of brought the devil out of the shadows, which is why he's been so much more at work. And so the devil, he's going to do to Judas what he tries to do to us. He tries to invade our own little worlds that we all live in. And he's not overt about it. He's just quietly there, switching up the voices of the broadcast in your head. And he's filling your mind with these different thoughts, these different ideas, these lies, this deception. And he's reading a script that works every time in humanity to sow doubt and disbelief and mistrust to God and his word. And he's already gotten to Judas. In this NIV translation, we see the word prompted. In the ESV, I like how it says, when the devil had already put into the heart of Judas. See, he's already gotten a hold of Judas. He's already caused this fear, this hysteria, this doubt that Jesus is not actually who he said he is, and he's not actually going to come and do what he said he was going to do. And so the devil says, I know what I'll do. This is a great plan. I'm going to actually invade Jesus' inner circle. I'm going to get one of them to secretly turn on him. He's going to betray him over to death, and then Jesus is going to die, and the devil's going to win. So the devil invades Judas' own little world to try and stop the invasion of Jesus' world into this world. And yet, we read in verse 3, Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power and that he had come from God and was returning to God. Which is to say, Jesus knows exactly what is happening and he is in full control of the unfolding situation. This is one of the most vile and diabolical acts in all of human history. That one of Jesus' closest friends is going to betray him over to death, and yet Jesus knew it was coming, allows it to happen, and he even ordains it. Which is to show that God, the Creator, has more power and has more authority than any of his creatures, including the devil. And that he, in fact, has ordained what the devil does to cause destruction in order to bring about his good purposes in this world. The devil is just a creature. God is more powerful as the Creator. And we see it clearly later on in the meal. After he had said this, Jesus was troubled in his spirit and testified, very truly I tell you, one of you is going to betray me. This is the first that the disciples are hearing about this. So you can imagine, you've been with these 12 of your closest friends. You have suffered together. You have slept beside fires together. You have broken meals together. You have served people. You have run away from danger. You have done so many things together that you are so close. And now your leader, your teacher tells you there is a traitor among us. And immediately you can go and look. They all start talking to each other with their eyes. You can imagine the shock in the room. There's actually a TV show on Peacock, which no one subscribes to, and I get that. But I know, it's fine. Anyways, on Peacock, and it's called The Traitors, which is, okay, basically it's like real-life mafia. Mafia is actually a game I learned in Young Life, okay? It's like a card game. I can't explain all of it. Go with me for a second, okay? And, they take like reality TV show stars. It's kind of trashy TV, but it's a little entertaining. Anyway, so basically they go into the Scottish castle, and there are all of these faithful. But amongst the faithful, there are these traitors. And every night, the traitors take out one of the faithful. And so the whole time, the traitors are masquerading as faithful. And the faithful are trying to figure out who the traitors are before they all die. Okay, we get that. All right? So that's kind of what's happening. And you see, they all sit at this round table. And every single day, they're voting someone off, trying to get out all of the traitors. And in that moment, when they actually vote correctly and they vote off a traitor, you see some of the traitors' like closest friends, their confidants, people who they trusted, get really wide-eyed and they start to cry and they get all emotional. It's just a game. These people have a lot of money. But anyways, they still get all emotional about it because they're taking it way too seriously. And they're just so shook by what's happening. This person that I trusted, this person that I confide in, the person that I've been doing life with for like 48 hours. But anyways, it's like they get so close. And they just can't believe that among the faithful that this person was a traitor. That's what's happening in this moment. And Jesus does his big reveal next. He says, Jesus answered, "It is the one to whom I will give this piece of bread when I have dipped it in the dish." Then, dipping the piece of bread, he gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. As soon as Judas took the bread, Satan entered him. And so Jesus told him, what you are about to do quickly. And so here's what's happening here. Jesus is literally giving permission to the villain in the story to carry out the plan that the villain believes is going to stop the whole thing. And in this moment, in the Gospel of John, the only time we hear his name, Satan, is given permission to carry out his plan to kill Jesus. The Hebrew word for Satan is the word the adversary. And it kind of gives this idea of someone who is hiding, waiting to ambush. And right now, this is Satan's ambush. He's been hiding behind the scenes. And now he's ambushed Judas in order to ambush Jesus, and he's going to take him out once and for all. But Jesus knows this. And he is so in control of the situation, he even then orders Satan, who has indwelt Judas, to do whatever he's going to do and to do it quickly. Why? Because everything is happening exactly as God has planned. Satan doesn't know that. Satan doesn't know that by dying, Jesus is actually going to claim victory. And yet, just when Satan thinks that Jesus is playing right into his hands, Satan is playing right into the hands of God. He takes the bait, he falls into the trap. God uses death, Satan's most powerful weapon, his most powerful ally, to defeat him once and for all. Satan does not operate with any authority that is not granted to him by God. What's the point? God is the author of the story. God is in full control of carrying out what is to come. What does Jesus say? No one takes my life from me, but I lay my life down of my own accord. I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it up again. That's the power. That's what Jesus did. He laid his life down. He willingly died for our sin. He paid the debt that we were supposed to pay. He was our ransom. And then he was raised to life, defeating Satan, sin, and death once upon a time, once for all. He made it so that we could all be forgiven of our sin and never have to be controlled by the enemy. He made it so that we could enter into this broken world that we exist in order to bring the world that he came to bring into this world. Yet, even with all of that power, with all of that control, with all of that knowledge, that majesty and that sovereignty, it says, so he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. Jesus, what are you doing? He's taking off the garb that signified that he was teacher, that he was rabbi. He's changing his position. He's doing a costume change mid-scene because he's about to do a lesson change. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. And so after Jesus reveals to these 12 disciples that there is a traitor among them, before he even says who it is, he then does something, and so the disciples are already kind of like, taken off guard. They're already pretty shocked. And then Jesus takes off his outer garment, wraps himself in the towel. He takes his position as teacher and Lord, and he changes it by changing his clothes, showing that he is using that position to lower himself to serve them. Jesus would even say in Mark 10, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus says to his disciples, let me show you an example that I want you to follow for the rest of history. And then Jesus washes the feet of all 12 disciples, 11 faithful and 1 traitor. Understand that at this point in history, this was the lowest of low jobs that any person could ever do. This was seen as punishment to slaves. It did not get more embarrassing. It did not get more degrading, more devaluing than having to get down on your hands and knees and wash with your own bare hands the disgusting bare feet that people had. And yet, Jesus wrapped himself in a towel, got down low, got into the mess of those that he cared about the most, made himself like a slave to the ones that he loved. Why? Because he knew that we all need to be washed, and he had to show us that. So I can remember there was this one time when my curiosity got the better of me, and it led to instant regret, okay? So I was 13 years old, and when you're 13 years old and you're a boy, your mind is just only filled with bad ideas. That's just kind of how it works. If you're 13, you're a boy, we love you, we're glad that you're here, okay? I'm sure you're much smarter than I was. I just wasn't very smart, okay? You just kind of look at the world with the perspective of like stupid glasses. It's like, how can I mess my day up? What can I do? And so I was looking around, and growing up, my family lived in a lot of different places, And when I was 12, we moved into this house, and it was like it was in this like developing neighborhood, and we took the lot that was as far away from all the other houses as possible because we as a family are loud and annoying, and we know it. And so we did it for other people. And so the point is, growing up, all of the other lots around us were constantly being developed. There were new roads being put in, and so there was constantly construction equipment, like heavy, expensive construction equipment that you could get yourself into trouble with as a teenage boy. And so one day it was summer's day, I'm walking down my driveway, and out of nowhere, I just see like this giant piece of PVC pipe like sticking out in the lot next to us, and I was like, well, that wasn't there yesterday. So naturally, I had to investigate. You're like, how do you investigate a piece of PVC pipe? Well, anyway, so I go over to it, and I was like, yeah, look at that. I was like, I wonder how deep it goes. So I look inside. You can't tell how deep it goes when you look inside. It's just utter darkness, right? It's just darkness. And I was like, well, I got to figure out how deep this piece of PVC pipe is. You say, why? There was no good reason. But anyway, so I pick up a rock, and I throw the rock down. I kind of like listen, and all of a sudden, like it was just, I was like, oh, that took like 4 seconds. This is a deep piece of PVC pipe. So what's at the bottom? And so, your mind's just curious. And so I'm looking for like a measuring instrument and all of this just like unused construction equipment. And finally, I find this piece of it was like a spool of yarn. It seemed good. And so I grabbed the spool of yarn. I'm like, I'm just going to drop it. I'm going to let it roll to the bottom. And I thought that was going to tell me how deep it went. I don't know. It was a good idea, but it didn't matter. So I take the spool of yarn, and I'm like holding it over the PVC pipe. And then I drop the spool of yarn into the pipe. But then, of course, my fingers slipped because I'm holding a piece of yarn. And so in that moment, I thought to myself, wow, my curiosity has just created catastrophe. I got to try and prevent this as fast as possible because I'm going to lose someone else's thing. Now, did it really matter? No. I probably should have just let it fall, but I didn't. Instead, I threw my hand into the PVC pipe to try and grab it. I didn't grab it because I'm not a ninja. And so then I pull my arm out, and it's just covered in grossness. And on the way in, I immediately realized that I just made a big mistake because the entrance to the pipe was really jagged, and I had sliced all of the skin off my thumb. And so it was a really deep cut on my thumb, and so now I'm on the ground, I'm in a lot of pain, and everything's just gross and bloody, and I'm beat up, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I gotta go get this thing washed. And so I run inside, and I put it under the sink under cold water and almost passed out because it was just so painful. And so then naturally my parents come up, and that silly story I just told all of you, I had to tell to them. And you get this question a lot when you're in high school from your parents, and it's this idea of, what world are you living in? To think that I should probably throw my arm down a piece of PVC pipe that I know nothing about to save a spool of yarn that's probably just junk. And you get that question for a lot of things in high school. What world are you living in? Fill in the blank, right? And this happens a lot. And I didn't have a good answer because there's no good answer. But I got that a lot in high school. And this week, we have had a lot of high schoolers in the building, for rehearsal and assemblies and things like that. And so I've just been kind of casually observing. If you're one of those high schoolers, don't think I'm weird. I'm just saying I haven't been around a lot of high schoolers lately. And so I was just seeing what's kind of going on. And I thought this was interesting. They wear headphones all the time. They're just headphones on nonstop, iPad, iPhone. It's just they are just in their own little world. And not there's anything wrong with that, because I think if we're all honest with ourselves, we all do that nowadays. We just throw our headphones in and we just kind of exist. And we let our algorithms and our curated content just feed us whatever we want. But here's the thing. When you're living in your own little world, there is no one who is hearing what's going on in your head. No one can check you on what's happening. And so it's really easy. You make yourself really susceptible for the enemy to invade that broadcast and begin to just fill your mind with lies and deception and things that aren't true about you or other people. And it actually isolates us and then just makes us more anxious and depressed and more fearful of the world around us, more fearful of the world that Jesus came in order to redeem. But this is because you and I exist in this constant state of being in these two worlds. And they're both competing to dominate or invade our own little world, our minds and our lives. And the question is, which one are we going to allow in? So, whether it's being at war or being invaded, you and I are just like the disciples that night in that we all need to be washed. All of us do. And in John's gospel, it's interesting because the word for wash that's used is this Greek word nipto. okay? Nipto is not used in the New Testament like at all. It's pretty much only used in John's gospel, and it's only used in 2 chapters. The one we talked about last week with the man who was born blind who had to wash in the pool of Siloam, and then now when Jesus is washing their feet. And that matters, and you'll see why. Because the story gets interesting when Jesus comes over to Peter, kind of the disciple with the biggest mouth. The thing was, though, he was usually saying how everyone else was feeling. And so it says, he came to Simon Peter, who said to him, Lord, are you going to wash my feet? Jesus replied, you don't realize what I'm doing, but later you will understand. No, said Peter, you shall never wash my feet. Jesus answered, unless I wash you, you have no part with me. Then, Lord, Simon Peter replied, not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well. Too much, Peter. Jesus answered, those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean. And you are clean, though not every one of you. For he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said, not everyone was clean. So what's happening here? Because it sounds like Judas and Peter are like saying the same thing and disagreeing, and it's kind of confusing what's happening, right? So the important thing is understanding that word for wash is the word nipto. The word for the word bathe is this word louo. Okay, that's a different word in Greek, and they mean 2 different things. What Jesus is indicating is that Peter had already been made clean. In other words, the moment that God had given him the revelation about who Jesus was and what he came to do, in that moment, Peter was made clean because he was brought back into a right relationship with Jesus because of his faith in who Jesus was. And the same was true for the other disciples. But you know who that wasn't true for? Judas. He never actually believed that Jesus was who he said he was. He never actually made Jesus the king of his life. He never actually believed that Jesus was going to do what he said he was going to do. And so Judas wasn't clean, but that didn't exclude Judas from getting washed. And because of that, Satan invaded his heart and used him to betray Jesus over to death. So then, if Judas was never actually clean and he still got washed, why would Jesus perform such an incredibly loving act of service for this person who he knew never actually loved him and was going to be the reason that he was going to die in the way that he did? Because Jesus was setting an example for us that day. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and he returned to his place. Now he's teacher again. Do you understand what I have done for you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that's what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. So you should be doing what I'm doing. And now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. So what's the example that Jesus has set for us in this moment? First, you never know the condition of someone's heart. So stop with the judging stuff, okay? You don't know where someone's at with God. It's actually not our business. It's between them and their creator, right? And so Jesus doesn't discriminate between Judas and the washing of him, knowing full well that he didn't actually see him and know him for who he was, that he wasn't clean. And it's not for us to know. But as the body of Christ, it is our job to participate in what's called mutual refreshing. You and I and everyone in this world live in a world that is dark and confusing and chaotic and messy and broken and hard and full of suffering. And a lot of people really don't like it because it's hard. And it's hard for us because we have been called as followers of Christ to invade this world in order to bring about this new world, this world of light, this world of peace, this world of love and grace, as Jesus did. But if we're going to do that, we have to go into the darkness. We have to go into the world. We have to plunge ourselves into the mess, into the darkness, when we don't know what's in there. And when we do so, we're probably going to get beat up. That's what's going to happen. When you go to your jobs, when you go to your schools, when you go to your teams, when you go to your practices, when you hang out with loved ones who might not be believers, who might be of the world. It's going to be hard. And we can't help it. We're not just supposed to isolate ourselves and run away from it, to just like live in our own little world. That's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to go out in it. But when you go out in it, it's like throughout the day, you just kind of like acquire this film, if you will. like this film over you. It's just kind of like, oh, I started out great, had a great quiet time, then I go out and I just kind of get covered in this like dirt of the world, and I'm just kind of like, it's tough. And if that goes unchecked, you just kind of like let that keep like getting on you, you're just going to feel gross. It's going to lead you to do things that you know you shouldn't do, and it's not good. So what are we supposed to do for one another? We're supposed to refresh one another. What does that mean? Well, it's like if you're just walking around a landfill all day or like a garbage thing, like at the end of the day, you're kind of gross. It's like if you go to the New York State Fair in August, right? Yeah, you go all day, and I don't know why, we pay to do this, and you go, and there's like barn animals everywhere, and there's just people who you just kind of like know about. Anyway, so it's just, you get to the end of the day, you just got like this film on you from the fair, and what's the only thing that you want to do at that point? Lord willing, take a shower. Yeah, so get a shower, get washed, get refreshed. That's a life of a follower of Jesus living in a world that's run by Satan. It's messy. And it can be really easy to just feel gross and beat up and like, this isn't worth it. But it's in those moments when we need each other. We need a kind word from a brother or sister to like cheer us up. We need a phone call. We need a text. We need to get coffee. We need to go to small group. We need to get in the Word. See that thing, like that daily time with God in the morning. That's you kind of like taking your spiritual shower. It kind of wakes you up. It kind of gets you ready to go out into the world. It's like preparatory. You're doing that to get ready to go out into the mess. By the end of the day, though, you need something. Like you just need to be refreshed. And that's why we have each other, to wash one another's feet, to enter into the messy and dark and sick situations that we get thrown into in this life when we're not supposed to go at it alone. We need one another. Take the time to be refreshed. What world are you living? How about this? Which world are you living in? Are you constantly just living in the world and you're just kind of getting gross and you're not doing anything about it? You're not trying to get refreshed? You kind of love the world a little too much and so you spend a lot of time there? Or are you trying to go into the world in order to bring about the world that Jesus came and brought? That's the question. The enemy will lie to us. And he'll push us away from each other. And he'll tell us just to hate everyone who's trying to refresh us and keep us away. Have you ever been to a wedding? Quickly. Have you ever been to a wedding where the bride and groom do like a foot washing ceremony? You see this before? A lot of people have said no, and that's kind of, is that encouraging? I don't know. But anyways, it's symbolic of like what we read already, okay? But here's and if you do this, I'm happy for you, that's great. But here's what I want to say about this, okay? You get to the wedding, and like, the groom takes off the slipper of Cinderella, and he's like washing her feet, and all the girls are like, oh my gosh, I just wish I had a guy who would wash my feet and serve me, and that's so amazing. Everyone's like, hooray, you're so brave. Folks, you have never been more clean in your life than on your wedding day, okay? She just got like, I don't know, is it a manicure or a pedicure? It's one of the, whatever the feet thing is. She just got that done, right? Her feet have never been cleaner. It is really easy to clean someone's feet when they're spick and span and everyone's cheering you on. It's like, huzzah, right? Like, that's easy. You know when this is hard? Real marriage. No, I'm kidding. But like when it's hard. It's late at night. And I'll say this, my wife, she will physically wash my feet. And you're like, what a good example of Jesus. It's because she doesn't want my dirty feet in her clean bed. That's why she does it. But, which is acceptable. But when she does it, I'm like, oh, this is a good example of Jesus because you don't have to do this. And it does feel good and it's nice. And you know who doesn't wash her feet enough? Yeah, okay? I don't. Because a lot of times it's late at night. I'm tired. I just want to go to bed. I don't want it. It's hard. It's in those moments when it's hard, though, that we really need to be doing it, that we really need to be washing one another's feet, that we really need to be refreshing one another. It's not supposed to be easy. When Jesus did it, his hands would have gotten filthy. It would have been super uncomfortable. And yet I know every single disciple in that room that night left changed forever because of what Jesus had done for them. And he said he set an example for us to follow. That's what we're supposed to do. Last thing. And it's the last musical reference for a long time. But anyways, I've said it before. I was in Tarzan. Okay, who cares? Anyways, I was in Tarzan, and the main theme of that song is the song Two Worlds, right? And the lyric is like, 2 worlds, 1 family. That's our story, okay? We are existing every single day in these 2 worlds, but we're still one family. And so Monday through Saturday, when we're out in the world and we're trying to be used by God and we're just doing our best, but we're just getting left hooks left and right, and we're just getting beat up and we're getting dirty, we're getting gross, we have an opportunity every single week to come together on a Sunday to refresh one another, We're all living in the same worlds, and we know how hard it is, and yet we get here and we just walk in and we walk out, and it's like, thank you for the thing, and I'll go do my other thing. And it's like, this is the opportunity. Meet someone in the lobby, form a relationship, get coffee, get a mentor, get an accountability group, get a small group, so that it's not just Sunday to Sunday. You missed a Sunday, 2 weeks, too long. The world's too hard. We need to make space and make time for one another throughout the week so that we can refresh one another. And we should take the time with God on a daily basis so that we can have the energy to be the ones to refresh others. Why? Because Jesus called us to. And he did it for us when he didn't have to. Here's my question. Who do you need to refresh? Who's the person who's coming to your mind right now? Who do you need to refresh? Who's that person? You've been meaning to text. You've been meaning to call. You've been meaning to get together with. Life's been busy. Send an email to, FaceTime. Guys, we have all of the tools in the world to be able to connect. Let's redeem them and use them for good. Let's be there for one another. Let's not miss church so that we can have this opportunity where we can come and just see what God does. Maybe he's going to use you to refresh someone. Maybe he's going to refresh you. I don't know. But this is what we're called to. We're in two worlds, but we're one family. And this is why our vision for our church is based on the way that this chapter closes. What does Jesus say? He says, "A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you," you just saw it, "so you must love one another. By this," and you saw it most clearly when I died and gave my whole life for you on the cross, "everyone will know that you are my disciples, my followers, because you follow my example when you love one another." That's what we're called to. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to do it together. Two worlds, one family. Would you bow your heads and pray with me? Heavenly Father, thank you for today. God, thank you for your word. God, thank you for Jesus. Thank you for his example. God, thank you that we get to follow it. God, and that when we do, we are blessed when we do. God, spiritually, you feed us. God, you fill us up. You care for us. You heal us. You give us that feeling of encouraging someone without them expecting it when they needed it the most, and it makes the world a difference. God, you've given us the strength and the ability by your Spirit, God, to get low and to get into people's mess, to refresh them, to help them. And Lord, people then reciprocate it, and it comes back. And that's just, you're so good, and it's your grace, and we thank you. Lord, help us to be a church, a body that is a light in the dark world. Help us to go to all of the places that you've called us to bring your kingdom in the kingdom of darkness, to battle back against that darkness with the light by following the example that Jesus, our King, has set for us. Lord, I pray for all of those who have never taken that step for themselves of being made clean, placing their faith in who Jesus is, their personal Lord, their personal Savior, and following him. Pray that you would move in their hearts, God, that they would do that. They would be made clean, Lord. But no matter who it is, Father, help us to look for the people who no one else sees. And help us to be the ones to go up and be the ones to refresh. Show us those people. Help us to be obedient. Open those doors. We trust you, God. We love you and we thank you. And I pray all this in Jesus' name.